Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Michaela Kerrison, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Squadron Leader Stacey Davids. This evening, we are honoured to acknowledge General Sir Jim Hockenhull, Commander of Strategic Command, United Kingdom, accompanied by Major General Warren Gould, Head of Cyber Operations Division, and Mr. Justin Keefe, First Assistant Secretary, Digital Capability, Department of Defence Digital Group. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of Perth College from Mount Lawley, Western Australia, and youth representing the West Australian Foundation for Deaf Children. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. If you are able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Signalman Clarence Henry Hawkins. Clarence Hawkins was born in Canberra, Victoria, on the 5th of December 1902, the son of William and Sarah Hawkins. When Clarence was 8 years old, his family moved to the port of Sale, where they lived in a house on the corner of Stowell and Market Streets. When Clarence reached the age of 14, he went to work with his father in the Sale bakery. The Hawkins family later moved to a farm on the Hart estate. Clarence was in a serious motor vehicle accident when he was 27 years old, and he received severe head injuries. He lost the sight of one eye and had a metal plate inserted in his head. Clary, as he was known, later went to work on a farm in Seaspray. With the outbreak of the Second World War, Clary Hawkins was keen to serve. Given his advanced age and physical disabilities, he was rejected several times in several recruiting areas. On the 5th of June 1940, however, he successfully enlisted for service at Town Hall in Melbourne, giving his middle name as Henry rather than Aubrey to avoid detection. After joining a training battalion, on the 22nd of July, the new recruit was found absent without leave. As Hawkins returned to his unit on the 1st of August, it became clear that he had been at hospital receiving treatment for laryngitis. In October, Hawkins attended cookery school, passing the course and all but guaranteeing that he would serve as his unit's cook. Returning to service in November, Hawkins transferred to the 8th Division Signals Company. Signals units were responsible for providing communications by dispatch rider on motorcycle, over the telephone and wireless, or any other means possible. Communications had to be maintained around the clock under all conditions. The 8th Division, of which Signalman Hawkins' unit was part, had been expected to deploy to the Middle East to join the other Australian divisions. But with war with Japan looming, the division was divided into 4 separate forces, which were deployed in different parts of the Asia-Pacific region. Hawkins and his comrades embarked for overseas service on the 2nd of February 1941, bound for Singapore. During the voyage, Hawkins was admitted to the ship's hospital, suffering from a venereal disease. Arriving in Singapore on the 19th of February 1941, Hawkins and his comrades joined the 8th Division forces in Malaya. In December of 1941, Japanese forces in Vichy French-controlled Indochina quickly overran Thailand and invaded Malaya, performing amphibious assaults on the Malayan coast. They met resistance from the Indian Army and British units in northern Malaya, but their superiority in air power, tanks, and infantry tactics forced the British and Indian units back along the west coast towards Gurmas and on the east coast towards Andau. In January 1942, the 8th Division went into action south of Kuala Lumpur at Gurmas and Muar. On the east coast, the 22nd Brigade fought a series of delaying actions around Mersing as the Japanese advanced. As Allied forces in Malaya were forced to retreat towards Singapore, a 2,000-strong detachment of 8th Division reinforcements arrived. Most had not completed basic training, and were ill-prepared for the fighting to come. By the end of January, the last British Commonwealth forces had left Malaya, and the 8th Division was given the task of defending the prime invasion points on the north side of the island. In early February, Australian positions were shelled by Japanese artillery, and air attacks intensified, destroying communications. On the 8th of February, Japanese troops began landing on Singapore Island. Despite resistance, the battle was all but over. Despite continued counterattacks and resistance, Commonwealth forces lost more ground. With civilian casualties mounting and bombing and artillery attacks intensifying, Singapore was surrendered on the 15th of February. Almost 15,000 Australians, including Signalman Hawkins, became prisoners of war. Initially held in Changi in Singapore, the main camp from which working parties were sent to other destinations and through which prisoners of war captured in other areas were staged, Hawkins became part of E-Force, which embarked on the steamer De Klerk in late March 1943. E-Force consisted of 500 British prisoners who disembarked at Kuching and 500 Australian prisoners who were sent to Berhala Island in North Borneo. In early June 1943, E-Force was moved to a prisoner of war camp at Sandakan to build an airstrip. At first, they were treated reasonably well. Gradually, however, rations were reduced and bashings increased. By late 1944, with Allied forces advancing towards Borneo, the Japanese decided to send about 2,000 Australian and British prisoners westward to Ranau in Borneo's rugged interior. Weak and sick prisoners staggered for about 260 kilometers along jungle tracks. Many died on the way. Their bodies never recovered. Those unable to continue were killed. Those too weak to march had been left behind in Sandakan, where all died or were killed. Only 6 survived the war. Clarence Hawkins was reported as having died of illness as a prisoner of the Japanese on the 4th of June, 1945. With no known grave, today he is commemorated at the Le Bourne Memorial. His name is listed on the Roll of Honor on my left among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Signalman Clarence Henry Hawkins, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.